And I'm joined now by Will Hildebrandt for a look at the international press this morning. Welcome, William.
Morning, Shona. Well, let's begin with The Independent, and we're going to speak about these French journalists who were killed last week in Mali. That's Ghislaine Dupont and Claude Verdon. And The Independent has an article explaining a little bit of Radio France International's reputation on the African continent, and that they're one of the most respected news sources for many people there, and that Ghislaine herself was one of the most famous journalists within this well-respected brand. Now, they spoke to a former colleague of hers, Cyril Bintimon, who said that their deaths raise an interesting question, and that should journalists stay away from dangerous places? He answers that, and he says basically, if they stay away from such places, they condemn those places to oblivion, and where there are no witnesses, there are no crimes.
Another top headliner today, of course, is the trial of Egypt's ousted president, Mohamed Morsi.
That's right. The Independent takes a look at it and says, as Morsi goes to trial, General Sisi should remember Egypt is a very dangerous place to be a ruler. This is an article by Robert Fisk, who's basically pointing out that through Egypt's history, leaders don't stay in power very long. Usually ousted, and military rule is basically the ultimate hand guiding the country. But General Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's grip on power may not be so sure. He hasn't made clear if he has any political ambitions in the future. The police is sort of running happy with a so-called state of emergency law, and protests are planned this week. So there's a lot of questions surrounding this trial, and there's nothing certain on the future.
All right, well, now there's also a massive article in the International New York Times about U.S. spying and how it's gone unchecked.
That's right. So the massive U.S. spying agency, the NSA, has 35,000 employees, an annual budget of almost $11 billion. And this article basically points out that rather than having themselves call into question their own activities, they were proud of themselves. There's internal memos of them bragging about what they're able to do, whether it's spying on friend or foe, diplomatic or economic competition. And the agency has grown so boastful of its own activities that the piece says basically it's the Amazon of spy agencies compared to yesteryear's mom and pop spy outfits.
Oh, very complicated. Now, the U.S. isn't the only country under pressure about its spying activities. British Prime Minister David Cameron is under hot water from rights groups, isn't he?
That's right. 70 of the world's leading rights organizations wrote this open letter to Cameron condemning him for basically threatening freedoms. They say that Cameron's implied he could impose injunctions against The Guardian, which has been at the forefront of leading these sort of leaked documents about spying, and that he's encouraged Parliament to investigate whether The Guardian and other newspapers which have published these reports have broken the law or damaged national security.
Now, switching from spying to piracy, a new report reveals that being a Somali pirate is big business.
That's right. From 2005 to 2012, they extracted $413 million. This is from ransoms alone. And the report drew this. Basically, we were able to discover this by talking to current and former pirates, as well as their middlemen and financial backers. Now, the pirates themselves are recruited from local fishing industry, and they can earn up to $75,000 for a single job. However, oddly enough, they can be fined if they have bad behavior. If we take a look at one of these graphs here, we can see that some of the figures between 2009 and 2011 were their most productive years in terms of boats and ransom extracted. And as you can see, in 2012, that dropped off quite a bit as our authorities are making a more concerted effort to, clean up the seas. But they still were able to get $40 million.
Wow, well, finally catching up with former U.S. President George W. Bush. Many ex-leaders still try to be influential. Even his right-hand man, Dick Cheney, is still trying to influence policy. But W's passion is no longer politics, it's art.
That's right. So he wrote an autobiography a couple of years back, but it seems he wants to chronicle his life in a new way now. And he's taken up painting. Some of these images have made their way around the internet. You might have seen the one is self-portrait of him in the shower. It's peculiar one. Many people thought it was a hoax, in fact. But his other subjects include...
I hope it's not too graphic.
No, it's fine. There we see him right there. You can see the reflection of him in the shower head and his feet, rather cute. But other subjects he's fond of painting are cats and dogs. But now W wants to paint a series of 19 portraits of foreign leaders who were in power during his time as president. And there's been mixed reviews about how good of a painter he is. But he's become inspired by an idol of his, Winston Churchill, who did the same thing when he left office. He picked up brushes, and now W, well, the whole world is his canvas.
That is a big role model, to lots of shoes to fill right there. Winston Churchill, thank you very much. Coming up after the break, we'll have more, and we'll also head to Greenland, where the Prime Minister is promising to push through plans for a controversial uranium mine aimed at boosting the country's economy.